I met her in New York. She was doing the Gary Moore show. I was introduced to her, and that was it. Then I did a sketch with her. I was almost stunned at her rhythm. I was stunned at her rhythm because it got my attention. When you work with a fine artist, they usually keep all of the magic to themselves. Carol was an unusual artist in that she gave pieces of herself to everyone she ever worked with. And I wouldn't know how to reword that. That's exactly what I believe she's done. And she's done it probably 75% off camera. But what she did on camera, the 25%, was worth 100,000,000%. Carol, for me, from day one, has been the essence of a great artist that we had in the business years ago. And this is interesting. I got to tell this to Carol. Before I was 80, I had a pretty good memory. When I became 83, I got into a little trap. You see, like all comics that want to exaggerate a point or build up the story so that the punchline really works. After about 83, I was telling people to set up, and I'm forgetting to finish. So for the last 3 months, I've been telling everybody to finish to the story first and then the setup. That's where we are. Beatrice Lillie was who I made reference to before and who I forgot for a second, but she's probably forgotten by the masses because she was there. I had just heard some things about her when I first got into the business at 12. So that's how far back B. Lillie was. But Carol would know if anyone compared her to B. Lillie, because that's about the Oscar of all time. For those that didn't know her, she was the quintessential, incompetent, greatest female physical performer that ever lived, probably 30 or 40 years before Carol was born. But she had time. It's all right, it's starting to rain, so the thunder out there comes into my office. But let me tell you something that I think is the genesis of Carol Burnett. The genesis is she never left femininity in the dressing room. She brought it out with her as the washerwoman. She brought it out with her doing Gloria Swanson, singing beautiful ballads with Julie Andrews. That was all coming from an incredible place. She cannot be written off as this great female comedian and end there. I think that she's earned us talking about her 48 hours a day. And you have to talk that long if you're going to get in everything. And I'm certainly not the announcer, nor am I the narrator, but I will tell you, there's never been a female entertainer, comedian / genius like Carol Burnett. She touched the lives of that audience like we hear about in school of acting. She did it as a normal part of her being. She committed so totally of giving of herself to the audience that there were times when I worried about her, because that's a heavy emotional responsibility. She was doing it every week for 11 years, something like that. It takes its toll. She could be resting right now and feeling very good, and then that half a turn of her head, oh God, why did I take that fall? And I've lived with that all of my life. So when you see someone else following that path, you're not only consumed with having to see how well she does, but wanting to jump up and say, be careful. But anyhow, I met Carol in New York on the Gary Moore Show, and we did the sketch that I hope you get a chance to look at. It was, you know, when a performer says that another performer made me better, well, you got to see this sketch and see what Carol did for me. Well, they wanted me to fill. They needed time. So I did an opening shtick, and I went noisy and crazy, and cameras and all that other stuff. And then, of course, the sketch with Carol. It was an incredible night for me, because I put that experience with Carol back with that experience with my dad and my experience with other great performers that I can't even remember by name. There have been so many, but there haven't been a lot of Carols. I think I once said in the New York Times, the two people that cannot really be impersonated is Carol Burnett and Dean Martin. We don't want to impersonate them. We want them as pure as they come. I said that a long time ago. It was very, very much in that special place that you can go to forever. Oh, sure. The people that she had were tremendous instruments in making up that totality. Harvey Korman? The name frightens me, to think people try that. Can't ever have another Harvey Korman. Never. You get close. You'll get some people that'll be very good, and for that matter, people who are terrific. Well, you can't find another Harvey Korman. You have to be happy with that block of time he gave us and put it away. When Harvey did that, an audience loved the reality of it. They loved the now of it. They loved the live of it. And Harvey took advantage of those bowls that he's performing in. He's sticking his hand out here, there. He can do it all. But when people see performers laugh at other performers, you can't make that up. It has to be real. And if it's real, you've just touched on a great stone. You've hit that by going there. Leave it alone. That's why my partner called me preacher. When I get on a certain subject, I'm on the box. Some of the great, great providers of information over the years in history for us could never really sit here and tell you what Carol Burnett really is, and I can. Carol Burnett, for me, was the nurse that didn't make it. She was the secretary to the president. Someone else got that job. She was running the war effort and helping Great Britain with clothes. She was stronger and prettier than Anna Magnani. When she sang a ballad, my skin crawled because I knew where she was singing from. And Carol can't sing any other way. It's got to come from there. Remember that she's a clown. And you have to remember that clowns come from a very, very, very unique place. So unique, it has no name. Those of us that come from there recognize those of us that come from there. And you don't go around screaming that Carol Burnett's a clown. No. When you say Carol Burnett is a clown, because she can call on that. And we know that. But when she does a ballad, she's as good as any female singer that ever was ever on her show. But we all have those, what I call ticks. That's a tick. Because she should be applauding for herself every minute of the day, for every song she's ever sung. We've given this country 50 or 60 years of impressionists, of wannabes. The country hasn't had a good lesson in judgment, and a good lesson in taste, and a good lesson in class. That's what's coming down the pike now, to make up for the garbage that we've been put through since 1948. And I take it as a personal affront when the networks put on anything. And they're in trouble now. Oh my. Wouldn't it be funny if somebody went to the board of directors of RCA and said, there's a comedian that lives in Las Vegas that can save your company if you give him an audience? Well, anyhow, this is about Carol, not about RCA.